Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP, in association with TheLibertyBeacon.com, and I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. Welcome to CTP Season 2, Episode 82. Behind the scenes, you can see me shaking the notes. And indeed, again, this is going to be another one of those episodes where I'm going to really make sure, please, go check out TheLibertyBeacon.com piece for this episode revelation. Let me make it, well, first, for those behind the scenes on the video, can see if I could get my shirt to cooperate. You all know I sometimes wear the Leonard, the man, the myth, the legend joke shirt. Well, today, for the benefit of the transcript and those on audio, I've got on my "With a body like this, who needs hair?" shirt. For those of you, if you've never seen a picture of me behind the scenes video, you could see me rubbing my bald head, which of course was not a hairstyle chosen by desire, but in 2010, as one of my many health-related issues, I had leukemia, and so yes, I'm a cancer survivor. And when the hair all came out, I decided, all right, well, I'm just going to shave it going forward, and saving a ton of money on shampoo and conditioner in the process. So that's great. That's wonderful. None of that has anything to do with this episode, of course, but my health issues do have to do with this episode. Let me be quite frank. Normally, despite my upbeat demeanor a lot of times or energy, you see me during my up times that I have energy bursts and am capable of doing this. It's why it's really a half-hour show normally. I can do a half hour, maybe an hour burst of energy, and then I'm wiped out, need a nap. So I could do this show while on disability, whereas I wish I could still work a normal job. I'd like my IT career back, but at any rate, I'm saying that today because I'm dealing with cold, flu, whatever, and hopped up on all kinds of meds, having so many issues. So while I was able to complete my TheLibertyBeacon.com piece, thankfully, thank you, Lord, just so happens, planned for this week, Revelation, which actually is in part something to do with that I had already written at beforeitsnews.com. So I'm mostly able to cheat, cut, and paste from there for the article. Thank you, Lord. Cut my corner because I just don't have the energy to write something completely from scratch. And same with this episode. I'm going to bid you an adieu and cheat, as I mentioned in the Revelation article at TheLibertyBeacon.com. The episode I'm about to cheat, tack on here for this episode, was Christopher Armstrong Stevenson visited. Revelation came up then. If you are not sowing good to reap good, you are complicit in the evil. So we kind of already covered the subject a bit. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to a reprise of that guest episode with Christopher Armstrong Stevenson. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. And yes, I'm going to be taking a nap now. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My guest today, Christopher Armstrong Stevenson. If you're looking on behind the scenes, BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, or YouTube video, you see me using air quotes, and I'm doing that for a reason. We'll have Christopher explain why the Armstrong Stevenson thing. Have at it.
All right, so my legal last name is Stevenson, but I go by my middle name Armstrong because it's I don't know, it's kind of like become like a thing over the last few years because I'm named after my dad's best friend who is an ex Navy SEAL who is Christopher Armstrong. So that's kind of where it comes from.
Cool. I like that. And yeah, my full name is Joseph Martin Edward Leonard. So a lot of people call me Martin. It's on my license plate, Martyn, which is now going to confuse some people because my Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book, there is a Martin, but it has nothing to do with me. It's a fictional character. I just used that name. But now that everybody's thoroughly confused, let's have you give us your background.
All right, so well, I'm 18 years old. I live in Florida in Daytona Beach, and currently, well, I used to live in North Carolina. That's where I like it. I like it up in the mountains. The mountains are good. But yeah, so I'm going to college right now for engineering science, which is not really what I want to do, but I do like e-commerce, a little bit of social media stuff, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get into, like that, the whole online business, trying to, and maybe even potentially starting a podcast of my own one day, because this stuff is fun. I enjoy this stuff.
That's great. You've got to get my fourth internationally available book, Podcasting Quick Start Guide. And then after that helps you to get your podcast going, you will want to write a book. I will want to see a book from you. My second international book, How to Write a Book and Get It Published, hints, tips, and techniques. So, in fact, after this show is over, when we're offline, I'll get your address. I'll send you a copy of both those books. But at any rate, and I say at any rate because it's an ongoing gag here about me maybe renaming the show to At Any Rate, because that's actually a good name for a podcast. Heck, I'll let you have it if you want to use it. At Any Rate is a great podcast name, and I jokingly keep saying it over and over and over during this show now. So it's become an ongoing running gag. You know, most podcasters, you got to avoid the ahs and the ums while you're gathering your thoughts. And then I, for some reason, started doing At Any Rate. So now it's become an ongoing running gag here. So indeed, at any rate, encouraged to see you becoming active, and that will be great. I would look forward to you doing a podcast. And if you're willing to have guests, I would love to be your first guest. But indeed, at any rate, I wanted to bring you on very much because of your age, right? I'm 62. In fact, I have a friend, thelibertybeacon.com, where my show has correlating articles with my Saturday show drops, Roger Landry, over there does a podcast called Boomer and Zoomer. He's my age, so he teamed up with somebody younger to do a Zoomer and Boomer show to give both the young and old perspective. So exactly why I want to have you on, to give that youth perspective. Uh, are you politically active in a political party or anything like that currently?
Yes, I'm so part of the Republican Party. That was what I signed, what I put on my when I went to get my driver's license, and I get a lot of my information. Like my dad, he listens to the Blaze Media podcast. He listens to them all the time. So I get a lot of my stuff from him and them, and so that's honestly where most of it's come from. My dad is like he's taught me like everything.
Yeah, Glenn Beck. Love Glenn Beck. I recently had a show about social media. That's not what I was meant to refer to, though. A couple shows ago, I don't remember which one it was, I mentioned Glenn Beck. There's good and bad and ugly on virtually any site, any channel you tune into. It's like, remember, Glenn Beck was on CNN at one time, right? I used to watch
Yeah,
Glenn Beck when he was on CNN before he went to Fox and now created the Blaze. I used to watch him on CNN all the time. There's nothing worth watching there anymore, but that's a whole other episode. Because I have written on that. I mean, the Enna Media, as I hashtag it, ENEME, and then lowercase DIA. They are left biased Enna Media. They are almost all, except for like The Blaze or Newsmax and OAN, left wing propaganda. They become part fascocrats, as they call them, apparatchiks. You know, they are no different than Pravda used to be in Russia.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. I've seen a lot of the stuff like with the BBC. Actually, I follow them a bit closely, and I've seen some of the stuff that they've done. Like they've really like gone way downhill. That I remember at one point a while back they had some incident with one of their employees was I believe he was engaging in with a minor, and they like completely like hid his name, hid who he was, protects him completely, but they're out here trying to expose other like influencers who are trying to spread the truth, and they're trying to call them out for straight up lies.
Yeah, I saw that story. I know who you're talking. I don't know the name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Right. I mean, the left has become the protectorate of pedophiles. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's just no way around it anymore. There's just all this, the LGB part of the equation has a big problem with the TQ part of the equation. I have gay and lesbian friends. They are part of the tolerance and acceptance crowd. They know my Christian position on traditional marriage. They also know that I was willing to support civil unions to give them legal protections, but not destroy traditional marriage. We are great friends. We understand where each other comes from. And I abide by Matthew 7. Condemn not, lest ye be condemned. I don't condone your lifestyle. They understand that, but I am not going to condemn you. That is for the Lord. Final judgment is for the Lord. And indeed, the more the left keeps pushing, the more ridiculous, the further down that slope that we warned was the slippery slope that was coming to where we are today. They didn't listen. I can't say you didn't listen. You weren't here. Right? I've been talking about this stuff for 5 decades now, ever since I was in high school in the 70s. The slippery slope. This is where we're heading. People did not listen, would not listen, thought the Democrats were still the party of JFK. No, they are not.
I've seen a video actually. It was an old interview from JFK. He was talking about he wanted a better and stronger America. He wanted like the bare minimum push-ups for every American to be 16, and it's at like most people struggle to do like 5 now. So it's absolutely nothing like how JFK was. Not anymore.
Yeah, no, JFK today would absolutely be a conservative Republican. He would be a constitutionalist. Our first Catholic president, and I was born and raised Catholic, but like I say on this show, this is not about Catholicism or Presbyterianism or Lutheranism or Methodist or any of the brands or flavors. It's about what we can come together under Christ in agreement on. Like I talk about, I'll get your thoughts on the rapture here, but before I do, I want to say, doesn't matter to me if it's going to happen or not. And the reason I say that is it's not on my terms or my time, it's God's terms and God's time. So let him worry about that. And that, if it happens, is going to be in the future. We've got too much to worry about in the here and now. Now, with having said that, if you want to state your beliefs in the rapture or not, you can, or if you want to, whatever you'd like to say on that.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with talking about that stuff, and I believe personally, I believe that it is going to happen, and my church preaches about it a lot. So I get to hear a lot of scriptures about it, and like prophecies coming true, and all the ins and outs about it. But no, I think I hear that there people are talking about it's going to happen soon, that a lot of the prophecies have been fulfilled. But personally, I mean, I can't confirm or deny whatever God's planning. All I know is that, well, I know where I'm going when I die, so that's all the same to me whether it happens.
Yeah, but what worries me is if Christians, like my book, Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, there's a Tokyo chapter. It's not just about Islamic radicals, it's about all terrorism. The Shinriko Christian cult in Tokyo engaged in terrorism because they were a Christian cult that believed, like Muslim Shiites do, that it is their job to hasten Armageddon, to bring about the apocalypse, to hasten revelation, to bring Christ back sooner. I just dropped a piece today. Again, we're recording Wednesday, July the 3rd on beforeitsnews.com. In the news, things you may not have heard that are important. And the opening line is the end nigh? And immediately below that is an image of the book of Revelation. So yeah, is it tomorrow? Is it next week, next month, next year, next decade, or next century? Again, that is God's time to know, not ours. So you're not of that camp that thinks we should hasten Armageddon.
No, definitely not. Because at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. It is God's time, and God and only God the Father knows when it's going to happen. So us trying to take matters into our own hands and do it ourselves, it doesn't seem like a very good idea, especially with how the way that the Islamic people are doing it, because like, I mean, blowing up buildings, killing Jews, all the stuff that they do over in the Middle East. There was a guy who was sentenced to death in Pakistan recently for spreading hateful content, and yeah, it's just become a mess. But I don't know. They call themselves the religion of peace, and
Seems to be anything but. Now,
yeah,
again, now my book, Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, goes into this. We're not talking all Muslims, right? Dr.
no,
Zuhdi
definitely not.
Jasser wrote a book called Reform, The Battle for the Soul of Islam, and he's running in Arizona for Congress as a Republican. I fully support him. I was on a black Muslim female show discussing my book. she gets it. Of course, people try to call me Islamophobic, but obviously they've not read the book. We're not talking all Muslims here. Look at history. It is said that only 7 to 10% of Germans, and I'm of German heritage, our family escaped World War One times, so weren't there for World War Two. I no doubt there might have been some family left. I have no idea where they were and things, but 7 to 10% only Germans were Nazis. And look how that turned out. So if only 10% of Muslims are Gijas, as I call them, global Islamic jihadist interim army soldiers, if only 10% of Muslims are Gijas, that's a problem. There is a problem. The world is on fire because of it. But again, terror strikes not only about Islamic terror, about all terrorism. Again, I went out of my way to make that point. The Om Shinryoku Christian cult who believe like Shia Muslims that doing evil deeds was okay because it might hasten the return of Christ. And nowhere of anything I've seen Christ say did he say that we should do that. So I'm with you. It's not proper. It's not right. It's not smart. We are to write 2 Chronicles 7:14. I'll get your reaction on that. Pray and turn from wicked ways. I shall hear and heal your land. Well, pray, I got to show, is prayer alone enough? No, it's not. And turn from your wicked ways. It says right there in that passage, we are to try to turn our nation from its wicked ways. We are to act, not just pray. We must act, and then God will help. Not wave a magic wand. We do, he will help. Your thoughts?
I think absolutely, yeah. That reminds me of Proverbs 3, where it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Like that's basically just saying, let God do His work and just trust in Him that He's gonna do His job right. So we should just play our parts, listen for Him, wait for Him to tell us what to do, and not try to take over and do what God is supposed to be doing, because He's got it all figured out, unlike us. And there's just no changing that. We can't play
Right.
God.
Well,
It's
they both play off each other. Exactly what you, like I said, it's God's time. We know what's coming. We know what's going to happen. But at the same time, he tells us to try to turn our nation from the wicked ways. So revelation doesn't have to come tomorrow, but hopefully next century. Right? Are we on the same page there?
absolutely, yeah. Because if God calls you to do something, then you go do it. You're doing what He's told you to do, and that's good. So, but we shouldn't be trying to hasten the process of Jesus coming back. We should be just listening to what God says and then just carrying it out, letting Him take care of all the other stuff that we don't know, that we don't see, and just waiting on His time.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I did make a note because I did forget I wanted to bring up. I think it explains a lot. I also talk about homeschooling. I mean, not everybody can do that. Obviously, if you can, you should. But if you can't, you at least need to set aside time at night to know what's going on in your schools and reinforce the positive and counteract the negative, right? So I think homeschooling explains a lot of why you are who you are today. And I think you've already agreed, but you agree that public schools can be okay as long as you're paying attention, not just letting them be your child's babysitter.
Exactly. Yeah. No. With Because what they try to do is they want like both parents working so that school can raise the kids. So that's why I'm happy that I was homeschooled because I had a parent home to help teach me school, and then also along with that, like religious stuff and political beliefs, what's going on in the world, other stuff. Like my parents got to raise me as their kid. I'm not the child of the government. I wasn't raised by public school, and I'm so thankful that I got to do homeschooling because the program that we did is definitely a lot more challenging than public school. So I have the opportunity to be a bit more advanced in my school skills, and yeah, and it was
You were taught to be able to think, not what to think. And you've come to your own conclusions based on the evidence presented to you. Now, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but I'm thinking you're going to agree with this next statement. It's like Hillary Clinton, and it takes a village. It takes a village is biblical in the community sense. Community is biblical volunteerism. It is biblical charity to be our brother's keeper. Hitler's It Takes a Village is Nazism, wards of the state, separation from church to state, not separation of church to state, as Jefferson wrote about in his letters. It's not in our founding documents. But indeed, communism is not biblical. Community is. Communism isn't voluntary, it's forced. It isn't charity, it's theft through redistribution of taxes. Your thoughts?
exactly right. That nails it right on the spot. And yeah, communism. I just look at the way that the communist countries work. You see that they're all in shambles, and people will go around saying they're like, "Oh, we haven't done it right." Same with socialism, just we haven't done it right. We have to try it this way, and then it's going to work better. But every time they try these systems and these ways, it always ends up with that top 1% in power. The rest of the 99% are starving, being killed in the streets by each other for food. It's chaotic. It's hell. It's not how we were intended to be.
Right. As Abraham Lincoln said, you cannot lift others up by tearing others down. And when you give things to people that they didn't merit, they didn't earn in any way, they don't appreciate it. That's why ghettos didn't work. You give somebody the housing completely for free, they didn't earn it, they don't respect it, it falls into disrepair because they've got no pride or respect in where they're living because they didn't earn it. They're paying nothing on it. It's like the Bradford colony. I have no doubt in your homeschooling you learned about the Mayflower Compact.
Yes.
But did they teach you that it was actually a communist compact? That's why the left likes teaching it as history without the full story. The Bradford Colony Mayflower Compact was a commonwealth. Everyone owned equally, everyone shared equally. And over time, more people decided, I'm not going to pull the cart, I'm going to get in the cart. The same failing of socialism and communism everywhere. So you didn't have to learn socialism and communism was a failure due to Marx, Lenin, Mao, Stalin, Che, Castro, what's going on in Venezuela now. Learn from our own history. Communism failed here. Bradford instituted private property, personal freedoms and responsibilities. Everything our nation was then gone on to be founded on. Have you ever heard the Mayflower Compact talked about in that reality before?
I actually don't think I have. It's been a while, but no, I don't recall that.
But it makes sense now that, as Paul Harvey would say, hearing the rest of the story matters.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. And I like what you said about how, like, if you're just given housing or something, if you haven't earned it, if you haven't worked for it, that it just all falls apart. I really like that because it's so true. I know for a fact that certain things that my parents have given me while growing up, it's I don't have the same respect for it as I do the things that I've now. I like buy everything for myself. I do everything for myself pretty much, and I take care of the things that I've worked for, and it's a big part of the problem here is that nobody wants to just wait. Nobody wants to work. They're just waiting on a stimulus check. They're waiting on somebody else to go do the work for them, and so I just that's a big part of why we have fallen apart as a country.
Amen. And thank you for that admission. This is the importance of having the younger, older perspective. That's why so many younger people are communists, because they haven't bought a house. They haven't bought a car. They have things given to them because they are children and their parents are taking care of them. And as they get older, they think, why can't government be my mommy and daddy and I not have to work for anything? And it doesn't work. It's exactly right. When you're younger and you're given something, you don't necessarily respect it, because now, as you're older and you're working and earning your own money and buying your own things, you have that much more respect for it and want it to last, because your hard earned pay went towards it. Like this house I'm in, I worked for it. So therefore, I respect it and I engage in the upkeep so that it lasts. Right? I'm glad you see that difference, because you're at that age of transition now, going out into the real world, not having your parents to completely rely on. And hey, things ain't fair out there.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But it's I feel like a lot of people have a hard time making that transition from being a kid into adulthood, especially with how reliant we are wanting the government to be mommy and daddy, like you said. And since I've never understood that because I enjoy working for what I want.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt you here, but and what I'm about to say is going to be controversial and it's going to upset a lot of people. Please hang in here with me. Don't have an immediate knee jerk emotional hysterical reaction, right? We got to use our brains. That's on the right. We are supposed to be thinkers and use our brains. The notion work sets you free, again, is a biblical concept. The Nazis, however, put it over their concentration camps. That wasn't work, that was slavery. Work sets you free. That's not slavery. Work gives you freedom to earn your own way and do what you wish with what you earn, right? A big difference there. But
Exactly.
people hear, a younger person might hear work sets you free and they think, you're repeating Nazi propaganda? No, I'm repeating a biblical tenet that the Nazis warped.
Exactly. It's the work is I mean it's required. It's needed. Like John Smith said back in Jamestown, if you don't work, you don't eat. So because we
Right,
need to have
because they learned from Bradford Colony's failures. Right. And
yeah,
there's the Bible. I forget exactly the scripture, but there is a difference. We are to be each other's brother's keeper and take care of widows and orphans, right? But you, as my brother, it's my duty as a Christian to be your keeper if you're unable. to do for yourself versus those who are unwilling to do for themselves. That's in the Bible. Unable versus unwilling. I have no obligation to you whatsoever if you are a low life piece of crap wanting to only ride in the cart if you're able to do for yourself. Like I myself, full disclosure, I'm on disability. So, and I don't like it. I don't like having to rely on disability, but I worked all those years, got sick, couldn't work anymore. I am unable versus unwilling. Major difference, right?
Yes, absolutely. That is a huge difference, and nobody really seems to understand that anymore because nobody wants to work. I'm with me personally, I think I would rather starve to death working my butt off trying to make something of myself rather than sitting on the couch saying, "Oh, government, you get to own me. You get to run my life, just pay my bills and feed me."
Oh, you after we're done here, you really got to check out some of my past episodes. I've recently had one too called Slaves to State. You queued that up perfectly. Exactly what you said. People willing to be slaves to the state. I try to keep my shows usually around 30 minutes because I call it today's twatter, now X, right? Attention span. Everybody wants to give me just the headline, though the headline can be misleading, all right? Give me a drive-by pot shot quote, which can be misleading. There are a lot of gray areas. We need to have detailed discussions, not just quick talking point sound bites. But if I go too much over 30 minutes, it will cost me viewers because of that twatter attention span of social media today. People want it in a short paragraph rather than delve into full, in-depth, go really down the rabbit hole. You see that amongst your peers, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. No, but it's gotten so bad that even like 3 minute long videos to people and
Can't
like
be bothered.
yeah, oh, 3 whole minutes. It's not 15 seconds. Can't watch it.
And thank you again for that admission of I know that's not you, but unfortunately too many of your peers, too many. I joke. And this is just a joke. Yeah, I call some the Y generation, as in, the letter Y to go with X and Z, but Y as in WHY. Why are you here? You're completely useless. It's just a joke. But indeed, a joke is good if it's based in reality. There is some truth in that. Some of these people are just useless mouth breathers, right? They just exist and entitled attitude. I'm entitled to everything. You owe me everything just because I'm here.
That is so very true, and I'm certainly happy that my parents spanked me as a child because I were not like
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Another great admission. Amen. Right? Spoil the rod, spare the rod, spoil the child, right?
yeah,
Spanking to the point of upset, I can't talk now. To, you know, Too many times for like no reasons at all, bad parenting. But yes, physical discipline has to come into play at times to get a point across. Some parents don't do it at all, and that's bad. Some parents do too much of it, and that's abusive. There's, again, what did I say about gray areas?
mm,
We could have a whole hour discussion on spanking alone, right? So,
yeah.
so with that, I'll just say thank you, Christopher Armstrong Stevenson, for joining the Constitutionalist Politics. If people want to reach out to you, do you have a website, or you on Twitter, X, or Fascist Book, or Instagram?
I am on Instagram. My user is at Armstrong American.
Thanks again for coming on. Take care. God bless. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you for having me.
I am Joseph M. Leonard, the host of Constitutionalist Politics Podcast. Hoping you will tune in every weekend. Also hoping you will watch for the companion Constitutionalist Politics book, Politics from a Christian-based U.S. constitutionalist perspective. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Podcast fans, get more about your favorite podcasts via deepcast.fm. Transcripts and all kinds of extra available information on your favorite podcast, including Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, is listed at deepcast.fm, as well as, are you a podcaster? Well, you can claim your free listing and more via Deepcast Pro. Check out tinyurl.com/Deepcast Pro for podcasters for your free listing, and that's the number 4 in there. tinyurl.com/Deepcast Pro for podcasters, the number 4, Deepcast Pro, the number 4 podcasters via tinyurl.com extension. Take care, all. You gotta check them out. Get more out of your podcast, whether you're the podcaster or the podcastee. Yeah, I think I just invented that word. Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you, or autographed copies are available online direct from me via terrorstrikes.info/shop. Be sure to check out more about today's discussion at thelibertybeacon.com, where my articles drop every Saturday. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help. Just wanted to give a brief shout out and thank you to all the folks on iHeartRadio, Player FM, being 2 in the top 3 platforms that my show, Constitutionalist Politics, is most often listened. So thank you all. Take care.